The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus. But the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country, where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat? But here am I, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of the hired workers.' So he got up, went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Bring a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fatted calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry and refused to enter the house. His father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, all these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf.' He said to him, 'My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
I hope that the retreat has been fruitful. I come to you in poverty today because, of course, it's a hard act to follow with what I've heard. I haven't been able to be here, but I've heard that the talks so far have been amazing. And then I'm given this gospel reading. Has anybody not heard this parable before? Okay. So countless books and homilies and meditations and ink and paintings and everything have been based off of this parable, what can I add and what can I speak into this for today? I want to focus on the son that ran away, the son that left. I know that there's so many different avenues to take for this, but I think it's good to focus on him once more. We see that when he was eager to leave his father, when he was eager to leave his home, he took the inheritance that was owed to him and he left. And maybe in his mind he thought, this will be enough. I don't need anything else from my father. I have what he's given me. I have what is owed to me, and now I can leave. And maybe he thought that's all I'll ever need. But of course, reality confronts him very soon after, as whatever the father had given him had run out. The son had squandered it. The life that the father had given him in the home, it can't be lived outside of that home. He may have been able to give him some money or something to kind of carry with him for a little bit, but whatever he gave him, it can't be sustained apart from the heart of the father. It needs to be in union with the Father in order for it to actually continue to bear life. And yet the son in his arrogance, the son in his pride, and the son in his perhaps even ignorance, he doesn't care about that. He cares about the immediacy of being able to find satisfaction on his own. To be able to run off and to say, I can do this on my own. I can provide for myself. I don't need my father. But of course, that ends in failure. And when the son returns, and when the son is embraced by the father, we see that the father isn't holding anything back. In fact, the father doesn't say to him, well, I've already given you your inheritance. What more do I owe you? No. We see that the heart of the father is one that is overflowing. He kills the fattened calf. He has the son decorated and adorned with symbols of his love. The father's love is gratuitous. The father's love is overflowing. And the son is welcomed once again into that place where the life of the father makes sense. The son is welcomed into the home of his father, meaning that he can now appreciate and he can understand and he can maybe for the first time in a long time receive into his heart, into his life, what the father is offering to him. But what about the next morning? I'm sure it was a big party. We hear about the cow being killed. Wonderful. Hamburgers for everybody. But what about the next morning? The son had been welcomed home. The son was living in the life of the father. And yet the next morning, what happened when he woke up? Surrounded by an environment that had up until the day before been so foreign to him. The son was used to living in squalor. The son was used to living in filth. The son was used to kind of striving after and aspiring after and trying to grasp after the things of this world to try to have them fill him. And now he's surrounded by life. Now he's surrounded by the symbols of the Father's love. Maybe he's still wearing the ring. Maybe he looks over and he sees the cloak or the sandals, or he sees the symbols and the signs of his father's affection. But I often wonder about that next morning and just trying to put myself into that place, because I know that when I have been far from God, that when I'm welcomed back into his life by going to confession, I can still carry with me the memories and all the pain that I've lived up until that point. And so the next morning, what was the son filled with? Well, surrounded by the life of the Father and surrounded by the signs and symbols of his affection for him, did the Son still carry with him the memories and the feelings of what it means to live without the Father? Did the Son still carry with him kind of that self-resentment that might have formed of what it looks like to live without life? Maybe. But I think that this is why it's so important that we're here today. And this is why it's so important that the Son stayed in the Father's house. Because, again, I know it's true for me, and I'm sure it's true for other people. When we are hurting, when we are filled with pain or grief or whatever, sometimes it can seem like God isn't there. Sometimes it can seem like he's the farthest person from us. Yet we hear this beautiful story of the prodigal son about how he's welcomed home. And yet with the pain we can carry with us, it can seem like that Father is far. But the Father knows our hearts. He knows our minds. He knows our limitations. And this is why he gives us a place to dwell. Because he knows that there will be times when, because of our own sinfulness and because of our own wounded nature, we're going to have a lot of doubt about the affection and the care that our Father has for us in heaven. And so he says, rest in my home. Be here. Be in this church, this chapel. Receive the sacraments. Be touched by my love. Be touched by my mercy. Be touched by my compassion. These are signs or symbols. These are evidence, we can say, of the Father's love for us. Because if he didn't love you, he wouldn't give you a church to remind you of his love. If he didn't love you, he wouldn't give you the sacraments as a way of touching him and him touching you. Look at the people in your life. Look at your spouses and your friends and your children and your parents. Look at them as evidence of how our Lord has loved you and loves you. These are those anchor points when we're put into doubt. We can look at them and say, this is a tangible sign of your love, Lord. This I can touch. This I can see. This helps me know that I'm home. This helps me know that I'm loved. And if all those things go away, if we can't see and touch our family and friends, if we can't see the church and be in the church, you exist. Your existence is proof of God's love. Your existence is proof of how he has chosen you. Your existence is proof of how precious you are to him. Your existence is proof of how he yearns for you to be close to him in intimate union with his heart. I don't know what happened the next morning after the prodigal son was welcomed home. But I know that in my own life, and I'm sure in yours, there have been times where it's been hard to just receive that love from our God. But I would just encourage you to look around. Reach out and touch the things he's given you and the people he's given you. Look around to see the signs and the symbols, those anchors of hope of the Father's vision for your life. He has a bigger vision of your life than we could ever have for ourselves. Because his vision for your life is rooted not in your past sinfulness. It's not rooted in your mistakes. It's not rooted in your failures. The Father's vision of your life is rooted in freedom. And he knows that you need freedom to be able to receive his love. So today, as we meditate and celebrate his love in the Eucharist, let us touch him, let us receive him, let us receive the sign and symbol of who he is. Absolute love for you.